Hi everybody, this is Courtney at 5 Stitches Crochet, where we keep things simple, and today I am going to show you how to crochet in the round. There are a lot of reasons to crochet in the round. It won't always be to make a perfect circle. Sometimes it will be to make a granny square. At the beginning of a granny square you'll work often, not always, but sometimes you work in a circle and then you square it off. At other times you will be making a pouch or a hat that you won't want to lie flat. But today I'm going to show you how to make a circle, and from there we can move on to other things. To start with this, we need to figure out how we're going to get that yarn onto a hook. And just as when you're working in rows, when you're working in a round, the most complicated part, I believe, is always getting the yarn on the hook. It's a miracle that any of us go on to do crochet, to actually learn how to make anything, when the hardest part is actually just getting the yarn on the hook. The hardest part is the beginning. That's the most complicated part. Once we get past that, we move on to easier things. So to start with, we need to get the yarn on the hook. And there are a few ways to start a circle in crochet. The way that I was taught to do a granny square back when I was very young is to start with a chain 4. So we have 2, 3, 4, and then to connect to the very start of that chain 4 with a slip stitch. And in so doing, we get this little ring, this little circle. And then we work our stitches into the middle of that. So in this case, I'm going to start with 8 half double crochets. So I'll chain 1 for height, and then do 1 half double crochet, 2, 8, and then I will slip stitch to the top of that first half double crochet that I did, and that will give me this circle, the beginning circle of my greater circle that I've worked into the ring of that 4 chain. The pros of that approach are that it gives you a nice strong start. You're not going to break in the middle. It's not going to fall apart. For anything heavy, anything that's going to pull a lot of weight from that center, any really heavy object, I would suggest either doing that chain 4 or doing a chain 2 start, which I'm going to show you next. The cons of this approach is that you notice that it has a bit of a larger hole in the middle, right? You could try chain 3 to make that smaller, but it's going to be hard to get rid of that. A way around that is to take this chain that you have, put it onto a darning needle, probably a smaller one than this, and weave it into that starting chain and pull that tight, and that's going to close up that hole. So that is one way of closing up that hole a bit, and while you can still have that really kind of stronger start. Let me take this apart and show you how to do a chain 2 start. So for your chain 2 start, you work you chain 2. So here I have chain 2, and now instead of slip stitching together, I'm actually going to use this first chain as my ring that I'm going to work into. So I'm going to do my yarn over to start my half double crochet, and then I will put my hook right into that first chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over all 3 for my first half double crochet. So there's 1, 2, and then I've got all 8. I go to the top of my first one, which I'm going to count back because sometimes it can be hard to tell which one it is. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So it's going to go through this one, slip stitch to close my circle, and I have my first round in that way. Again, not the smallest hole in the middle. You would want to, again, sew that up with the tail here. You just weave that in and out of the stitches, and then you can pull it taut, and that will close that up. For smaller items and crocheted stuffed animals, and for this that we're going to make, which is basically a trivet, I can use this either as a pot holder or as a placemat. For this, I'm going to use a magic ring or a magic circle, depending on how you refer to it. This is a bit more of a complicated start. For a magic ring, I'm going to drape my yarn over my hand like this. I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to create an X on the top of my fingers. Oh gosh, I made that complicated. I'm going to create an X over 3 fingers, crossing it over like this. My little pinky finger then gets to hold that in place. My yarn that is going to my skein or coming from my skein is crossed over, is what is crossed over and coming back towards the skein, if that makes any sense. What is down here is connected to the yarn that's going away. Does that make sense? So the top part is going back to the skein. The bottom line is coming away. I take my hook, I stick it under that first one, I hook the back one and pull it under, and kind of twist that around, and I've got my my hook into the thread, and then I go back under here and I do a chain 1 to get my yarn on that ring. It looked a bit complicated. You can keep it on a bit longer, but I usually try to get it off of there quickly. This is the ring now that I'm working my half double crochets into. I yarn over, go into that ring, yarn over, come through, and make my half double crochets. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have my 8 half double crochets on here. I'm going to take the tail of this yarn, the tail being the part that's coming away from the skein, right, the end piece. I'm going to hold on to the piece that I've worked up here, and I'm going to pull that tail and tighten it quite firmly, because this is nice, strong yarn, strong cotton. And then I do my slip stitch into the beginning. Made that a bit wonky, but there you go. And you can see that now I don't have any hole in there, which is why people like the magic ring / magic circle so much. But you'll also hear stories of people who made a big, gigantic granny square, just a blanket that is one big square, for example, and they started with a magic ring, and that magic ring came done in one wash, and the whole thing starts to unravel. You'd like to avoid that, then do your chain 4 start for something that's big, or perhaps even a chain 2 start. The magic ring is great for something smaller, like the trivets that we're going to make. I'm going to undo this so that I can show you how to start it one more time. So I have my yarn, the yarn that's coming away from the skein. I wrap it around 3 fingers of my non-dominant hand, so that it's crisscrossed like this. Let me show you that again, because I'm not sure if that was in the frame. 3 fingers, non-dominant hand, wrap it around, crisscross over, so I've got an X. My pinky holds on to that yarn, I put my hook face down, hook down. You see, here's my hook. I'm going to turn it down like this, put it underneath that first one, hook the second one under to pull it under, and twist it around like this so it's facing back up. And now that yarn that I was supposed to be holding under my pinky but did not hold very well, pull that back up. This yarn I'm going to use to make my first chain. Oh, this is not an easy one right now. I could stay on here a bit longer. Yarn over, go underneath everything, yarn over again. So I've got my 3 loops for my half double crochet, yarn over and go through all 3 and do my first half double crochet on there like that. But generally I prefer just to pull it off as soon as I've got that first chain that you do. Let me do that one more time. That first chain that you do is what holds it together. All right, let's do it one more time. We're going to take this line that's coming out of your skein, wrap it around 3 fingers, make your X. Take your hook, turn it downward, put it under the first line, go over the second, pull that line under, turn it around so your hook's facing back up again on top. Then that piece that you've got, that your pinky's holding on to, that's coming from the skein, go underneath it, yarn over, essentially, pull it through that loop, and you've made a chain that holds that circle in place. Then when you work your half double crochets or double crochets or single crochets, whatever it is you're working into there, you work into here, that chain will be holding that space. You'll work it over both of these 2 lines that are hanging out here, because you need those both underneath there so that you can pull it taut when you are done. So here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. I have the tail that's coming out. I hold on to this piece and I'm going to pull it taut, quite taut, because this is very thick cotton and it's safe to do so. And I'm going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to make sure that I am slip stitching into my first stitch. It can be easy to do that wrong. I think I might have on the first round of this, the first example. And again, I have a very small hole in the middle. I've got my the very foundation circle that I'm going to start with ready to go for my flat circle that I'm about to work. But you could do this starting magic ring for any circular item that you're going to make. Again, I suggest it for something smaller. Please do like this video if you found it helpful. If you are still horribly confused, put it in a comment so that I can elaborate or do another video. Like the video if it's helpful. Subscribe if you'd like to receive notifications for future tutorials. Thank you very much.